Merry Christmas. Here we are, still in these 12 days of Christmastide. And this coming Sunday, the second Sunday of Christmas, these are the words we hear and turn our hearts toward. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. John testified to him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me ranks ahead of me, because he was before me.' From his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. The law indeed was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. It is God the only Son, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known." I can remember a night, a very long night, a few years ago when our son had to be kindergarten or first grade aged. It was before the time of COVID, and so if he got sick with upset stomach or runny nose or a cough, we didn't immediately worry that the plague had come into our house the way people might be concerned now. It was just a really, really unpleasant case of a cough or a cold or an upset stomach. And we knew in times like those, there were a handful of remedies we could offer. Children's Tylenol, ginger ale for an upset stomach, and saltine crackers or some applesauce, cold wet washcloth for the forehead if he was running a fever until the medicine could take its course and he could get to sleep, something to soothe his throat. They were pretty limited tools you have when all you're dealing with is run-of-the-mill sick. So I can remember at least a handful of occasions when my son or my daughter would get sick like that. And they would try and fall asleep on their own. And I knew that it was simply a matter of time before the children's cough medicine or cold medicine they'd been given would kick in, would help them sleep and would manage their symptoms, and then they'd get rest and their bodies would be renewed. But they didn't know that. They didn't understand. I could say it to them in words. You'll get better. It will be all right. The medicine will start to help you soon. But if you've worked yourself up into a frenzy, worried that the sickness is never going to get better or that you'll always feel miserable, you don't want to be alone in it. So on more than one occasion, I was invited to snuggle up next to them while they fell asleep. And in that time, when as the grown-up, you're not going to be getting any sleep, you have a chance to think a little bit. And I think maybe moments like that give me a glimpse of what John has in mind when he talks about God the Word who was with God, who is God, and who comes and dwells among us, about why this miracle happens, why God comes to us in the fragile humanity of Jesus. Because I want us to be clear about what it's not. It's not like God sitting up in some lofty heaven thinks, I don't know what it's like to experience suffering like a human. I know I need the novelty of getting to know human beings. I'll become a human because I need to learn or grow, right? When you're the parent and your kid is sick and they say, come, snuggle with me so I can go back to sleep. The parent isn't thinking, I need to learn the life experience of what it's like to get sick. So sure, I'll climb into bed next to you so that I can be as miserable as you are. So I will learn that. It's not like that. Instead, it's your kid needs you, right? Your kid needs to know they're not alone in this, needs to know that you are there with them and that you are willing to go through all the ups and downs that they are as well. Right? I can do just as good care for my sick kid listening from the other room. I can give the medicine, I can take their temperature, I can do all those things. In fact, probably I can function better as an adult taking care of them if I then get to go sleep in another room. But if the kid needs you to lay down next to them to help them fall asleep, you do it, not because that's magic, and maybe not even because you need to experience it for your own sake, but because they need you to be there. When John says the Word became flesh and lived among us, it is this audacious claim that God entered our humanity, that God shares what it is to be human, but not like a tourist. Not like God is going, I wonder what it's like to be a human. Let me try that for a while. This isn't like some biblical version of the Little Mermaid who wants to know what it's like to be human, so she trades her fishtail in for some legs to get the experience of being human. And God isn't trying to woo or win anybody like the Little Mermaid trying to win her prince. This is about us being hurting and God saying, I will enter into this with you because we humans are the ones who are afraid and need to know someone is with us. I mean, my son or my daughter, when they're sick and they start the night in their own bed all by themselves, they know nobody's leaving them. They know we're in the house somewhere, but some part of them needs to know deeper down, Mom or Dad are with me, are in this with me. And they will go through the scary stuff. They will go through the uncomfortable stuff. They will be restless with me, even if it feels then like they run the risk of getting a cough or a cold or a fever themselves. I want to suggest something like that is the wonder of the incarnation. It's why we, as the followers of Jesus and the community called church, take more than just one night to talk about Christmas. It's not just, okay, we had the manger, we've done the stories, let's move on to the next thing. Okay, you've got the detail of the manger and the shepherds and the angels, fair enough. But now let's poke a little deeper. What does this story mean? It means that when this whole world is sick and restless, God is willing to come and share that restlessness with us as one of us among us, climbing right in under the blankets next to us to say, I will go through this with you. Not because God needs the experience, and not because God only has access to helping us if God comes to be one of us. God can see just as fully and well from God's vantage point in heavenly glory. And yet because we have the need, God comes to be with us, to dwell among us. Eugene Peterson, the late pastoral theologian and author, translated this verse from John's Gospel. The word took on skin and moved into the neighborhood. What a beautiful image about God coming to be with you, sort of throwing God's lot in with us. Whatever you go through, I will go through as well. God saying, I will camp out. I will make my dwelling place your dwelling place. I will be with you. In the same way God had been doing for generations upon generations, all throughout the ancient story of Israel, where the people would wander from place to place and God would dwell with the people. They'd pitch this tent at whatever spot the people were going to camp out, and God then would come down and sort of dwell with them. The word for that, to pitch a tent or to set up, they called it the tabernacle. Same word that John uses here too to talk about God dwelling with us, God pitching a tent to camp out with us, to be where we are. In this new year, I suspect you and I both really need to hear. you are not alone. And that especially in a time when we still feel so fragmented, so disconnected from one another, in this time when the pandemic that is still around us still feels like it's got its fingers in us and pulls us apart and makes us separate, it is really, really necessary to hear you are not alone. And not merely that God watches from a distance, but that God says, you need me to come in close and get under the blanket next to you? Okay. Make room by the pillow. I will camp out with you. All the things that make Christmas a cultural celebration, the trees and the lights and the poinsettias and the carols, those are all lovely things. But I got to tell you, I could take them or leave them. I'd be okay if we didn't have those. What we need, what I so deeply need, and I suspect you do too, is the assurance we get here from the words John gives us in the gospel. That God's response to all of our hurt is not to say, I know about it, I will just go back to my space and watch you from a distance. But okay, I will share it with you. You need me to be here with you tonight. I will be with you. And you are not alone. Maybe somebody else you know needs to hear it too. And they need to hear that assurance, not on a screen or a text message or even written on a page. Maybe not even reading it in their Bibles will mean as much as it does coming from your voice, from your embodied love for them, to say, you are not alone. The living God is with you. And here we will be proof for one another that God stays with us. A blessed Christmas to you. A happy and joyful new year. And know indeed, the Word has become flesh and lives among us. See you Sunday.